Alright, so in this case, we're going to find the equation of a line that is parallel to negative 2x plus y equals 3 and passes through the point 4 comma negative 2. So let's start with our equation, y equals mx plus b. And let's realize that m is what we call, once again, our slope. Okay. We can also start with our coordinate, 0 comma b. And notice that the v value in this case is what we call the y-intercept. So from our equation, y equals mx plus b, m is the slope, and b is part of the y-intercept. Let's also realize that our slope m equals rise over run. This is the typical form of using it for graphing. We call it rise over run. If it's a negative, we call it a fall instead of a rise. We also call it change in y over change in x, or delta x, delta y. Once again, note that the triangle delta means change. So in other words, subtraction in many cases. So first equation, we were given the equation negative 2x plus y equals 3. So notice that in this case, we probably want to get it into slope-intercept format. In other words, y equals mx plus b format. So let's get rid of the 2x. So it's a negative 2x. We're going to add 2x to both sides. This will allow us to get it into the form of y equals mx plus b. So far, it was subtracting 2x. We're adding 2x to both sides. Okay. Notice that adding 2x to the left and right side now gives us y equals 3 plus 2x. But this doesn't quite look like the format y equals mx plus b. It's not in the same order, we can say. Well, this may be okay, but we probably want to get it more like a format of y equals mx plus b to make it easier to use. So in other words, let's rearrange it. We're going to rearrange the 3 and the 2x. We're going to put the 2x first and then the 3. Do notice, no sign change occurs. Since in this case, all we're doing is within the same side of the equal sign, just flipping them around. It's kind of like having two people in a line. When you tell somebody to go to the back of the line, it's still the same person. In this case, they still contain the same sign, positive for both. So this is a better equation because now it's in the form of y equals mx plus b. So our slope is 2 and the y-intercept is a 3. So now, keep in mind, this is the first equation. So now we're looking for a second equation. And we're looking for an equation that is parallel to y equals 2x plus 3. So notice that parallel lines have the same slope. So we currently found that the slope is 2 for the first equation. So it means slope must be the same. Let's start with y equals mx plus b, just a general format. From here, we now know that for the second equation, m is equal to 2. And that's because it has to be the same as the first equation. So slope equals 2. Let's plug it into our equation. So y equals 2x plus b now. And notice that in the equation must include the coordinate that we were given. The coordinate given is 4 comma negative 2. So we're going to substitute it into our y and x values. Keep in mind, a coordinate contains an x and a y. So there, notice that the x value is 4, y value is the negative 2. Okay, so let's try plugging it into our equation. So negative 2 equals 2 times, in parentheses, we have the 4 representing the x, and then plus b. So simplifying this, 2 times 4 gives us 8. So we have negative 2 equals 8 plus b. And now let's get rid of the 8 to solve for the b. It's a positive, opposite means subtract it to both sides of the equal sign. So we subtract it on both sides. On the right side, we cancel the 8. 8 minus 8 cancels out. And then the left side, we have negative 2 minus 2. They're both negatives. So it means if I borrow $2, for instance, as an example, and I borrowed $8 more because it's negative, I say the word I borrowed. That means I borrowed a total of $10. So it's a negative 10 overall. In other words, we add the quantities for this case, but it's still negative. So negative 10 equals our v-value. So let's plug it into our equation then, since we now know the v-value. Y equals 2x plus times minus 10. Well, this seems kind of odd. There's a positive and a negative sign for the v-value. Well, we got to simplify this. We want a single sign. So positive times a negative always gives us a negative. So we have y equals 2x minus 10 as our final solution. So there's our equation number 2. This is the equation that we were looking for. Y equals 2x minus 10 then. This is the final answer. Well, keep in mind, we can always build a table and pick x values. For instance, 0, 1, 2, 3. And then plot them on the graph here. But let's try graphing using the slope. Keep in mind the slope is the same for both equations. The slope is 2, m equals 2. And likewise, we can convert it into the form of, well, 2 over 1 to be in the form of rise over run. So we're going to go up 2 over 1 according to our statement. Whenever you have whole numbers, you can always put it over 1. So there it is, rise over run, 2 up over 1. And let's also use the y-intercept to use it for our starting point, or the initial point that will then guide us for graphing. Okay, let's do remember that our first equation, y equals 2x plus 3. Well, that's what we came up with at the beginning for simplifying and making it look like a slope-intercept format, right? Let's also realize that for our first equation, the slope is 2. Once again, same for both equations. The y-intercept is the 3, but do keep in mind, we gotta include the 0. So this makes it a complete answer. The y-intercept for the first equation is 0, 3 with parentheses around it. That's the complete answer. Second equation. The slope is 2. Once again, same slope, right? They're parallel. And the y-intercept, therefore, in this case, is 0, negative 10. Once again, do notice they always have a 0 for the x to be the y-intercept. And the y-value in this case is the negative 10 at the end of our equation. Okay, let's label our axis, x and y axis. Bare minimum, right? Positive y value and x value. Whoop. Okay. So now, in this case, we're going to go ahead and plot this out. For our first equation, the blue line, notice that we have, in this case, our first dot is the y-intercept, 0, 3. So there's 0, 3. Okay, so now our slope tells us to go up 2 over 1, and there's our next point. And we're going to repeat this again, up 2 over 1, there's our next point. Up 2 over 1, there's our next point. And up 2 over 1, etc. Okay, let's try the next one. Plotting the y-intercept of 0, negative 10. 0, negative 10, and then we're going to go up 2 over 1 for each of the following points. So up 2 over 1, and now we want to trace a line through all of our points. Okay, so tracing the line through all of our points. Now we can see that they look or appear to be parallel. They should be parallel if we did this correctly. And checking to see that we have our given point, the 4, negative 2, which does lie on our graph, as we've noticed. So we should have a y up at the top and an x axis label over on the right side, right? So, minor mistake.